Hey everyone, MeltingMan234 here with another retrospective. Yeah, I know I still have to work on Forgotten Media, Give Me Chaos Theories, and of course the long-awaited Q&A video, but I wanted to get this one out of the way first, because I've been planning on doing this for months now. So for my personal retrospective on video game franchises, I've usually covered Crash Bandicoot and Banjo-Kazooie, so now it's finally time for me to talk about my other childhood gaming icon, Spyro the Dragon. Yeah. My first introduction to the Purple Dragon was, ironically, on the first video game I've ever played, Crash Bandicoot 3. The instruction manual, yeah, remember those things, had a code to access a demo for the first game, so I did that, and I was just amazed at how you play this dragon who goes around breathing fire and charging and all that open world goodness. So eventually I got the first game for my old PS1. Yeah, unlike Crash, I actually started in chronological order with this trilogy. So now it's time to go over my personal retrospective on the Spyro games, which will include the original games and the Legend of Spyro games. And no, there will not be any Skylanders games, because one, I've never played any of the games, and two, I don't consider them to be part of the Spyro the Dragon franchise. Well, that's just my opinion anyway. Spyro 1. This game was a lot of fun, collecting gems, chasing egg thieves, and saving all those dragons. I played this game so much that I eventually decided to actually beat the game 100%. Yeah, back then I was pretty lazy with, beating the game and collecting everything, but this game was the one that helped me become the collectathon gamer I am. And it was totally worth it, being able to glide around and collect boatloads of treasure in that special portal room. The other abilities were cool too. Supercharger's always my favorite. Running super fast and bashing into enemies, yeah. I also remember there was some kind of a dodge roll ability, but I never really used it most of the time because I just forgot all about it. But yeah, the first game was great. And then the second game came out and it made it even better. Yeah, definitely had a lot of fond memories with this game. Interacting with the creatures of Avalar, Ripto being a fun villain, and those humorous cutscenes for entering and exiting a world. I remember Fractured Hills was one of my favorite levels, just for the Earthshaper designs and the bagpipe music. Seriously, am I the only one who actually liked that jingle? Well, let me tell you, it took me a while to learn how to master the hover ability first time playing around, but once I did it, it became my best friend. And of course, I'm pretty sure I'm not the only person who had trouble with the trolley, hey? First time playing that mission. But yeah, the other things that I really enjoyed with new moves like head bashing, climbing ladders, and swimming. Swimming around in Aquaria Towers was also pretty cool. And then, of course, this game was the introduction to money bags. Yeah, that greedy bum always charging you portal entries and other things for quote unquote a small fee. And if it wasn't for this game, I'm pretty sure he would be the face behind EA Games. I honestly didn't have that much of a problem with him. Most of the time, I would always run around collecting all the gems that I could find in the level, so even with that annoying character, the game was still a lot of fun. And then came Spyro 3, or just Spyro Year of the Dragon, which I also really liked. New worlds, new missions, and new playable characters. It seems like a lot of people really don't like the other playable characters, but I like them. Sergeant Bird was always my favorite. I mean, come on, he's a flying penguin with frickin' rocket launchers on his shoulders. That's pretty badass. The levels that I really didn't care for was the Sparks levels. Just didn't interest me back then, but hey, at least they were worth it in unlocking some new abilities. And I also didn't like the Agent 9 first person shooter segments, which was basically my bad introduction to the FPS genre of gaming, and that was pretty much the reason why I didn't like those kind of games at first until years later Team Fortress 2 changed my mind. I remember my first playthrough, I found the game to be pretty hard. There were at least two missions that scarred me for life back then, and that was that boxing match with Bentley, which was so aggravating, and that stupid snowboarding race with the Yetis, which I could never beat without cheating. I found this weird glitch slash trick where I flew onto the course, stood in a blue star boost for a few minutes, went back to the start to get the race started again, and I was just speeding on by like I had infinite boost. Now, of course, most people say that Spyro 2 is the better game, but honestly, I consider both 2 and 3 to be the best. Reason why I also really like Spyro 3 is kind of the same reason why I like Crash 3. There's a lot more variety with the gameplay in those games. Spyro Enter the Dragonfly. Yeah, this game. Well, What else can I really say about it that hasn't already been said? This game is like the Sonic 06 of the franchise and how nobody will shut the hell up about it. Well, I will say that it looks and plays like a Spyro game, except that most of the time it feels very sluggish and those frickin' loading screens go on forever, much longer than they do in Wrath of Cortex. But yeah, that's about it. One of the weakest games in the series, everybody's already talked to death about it. Next game. Spyro Season of Ice, the first Spyro game on a handheld. And it really shows. There are a lot of things that annoyed me about this game. First off, the level design is divided into sections, which is really annoying when you don't have a map feature and the camera is pretty close up onto you. And since knockback is a big problem in this game, it's real easy to fall off the ledge and die. Other than that, there are a few glitches that I discovered in my recent playthroughs, and that the controls can be pretty stiff at times. Not to mention the fact that Grinder is probably one of the most forgettable Spyro villains in the series. So yeah, I'm sure there are some people that like this game, but personally, I really don't have any fond memories. Now, Season of Flame, on the other hand, is a huge improvement. The levels are better designed, the controls feel more smooth, and there's actually a map option, and it just feels a lot more fun to play. And with the addition of Sheila and Agent 9 as playable characters, that was also nice. So yeah, obviously I really enjoyed Season of Flame much better than Season of Ice. Spyro Attack of the Rhinox. This was actually my first experience with a Spyro GBA game, and I still consider it to be the best out of the GBA titles. The worlds were fun to explore, like how there's a world dedicated to teaching how to be thieves or touring Moneybags' mansion. Then there's also the Sergeant Bird and Agent 9 stages, and for some reason I always like the Agent 9 stages better. But looking back on it, I can see how they tried to go for more of a stealth game, but it just doesn't work quite right, especially since you have to take out the Rhinox in order to get the gems to 100% the game. Another thing that I noticed was that this game has quite a bit of backtracking when it comes to requiring specific items to beat the game. Mostly you're going around collecting Hearts of the Worlds to fight off Ripto. But in order to do that, you have to complete a lot of fetch quests and find pieces of keys to unlock certain chests that require a certain item that you can use to get that certain heart. So, yeah, if you don't like backtracking around that much, they're probably not going to like this game. But other than that, I still enjoy it whenever I pop it into my GBA. Spyro A Hero's Tale, a game that a lot of people seem to be very divided on. Personally, I thought it was fine, although looking back at it from a story perspective, it can be cheesy and annoying at times, but not as quite as annoying as Sonic Colors. There's definitely a lot of changes in this game. Gems act as currency, Spyro can double jump and grab ledges, but the one change I'll never get used to is the charge and flame ability. In most Spyro games, it's always been circle for flame and square to charge, but in this game, it's the other way around. Sure, this isn't a problem for someone who's playing this as their first introduction to Spyro, but for an old fan like me, I just don't like it. But other than that, the levels were fun, and of course the Speedway stages with Sergeant Bird are still my favorites. It's also rather interesting that Jess Harnell voices quite a lot of characters in this game, including Spyro the Dragon. But yeah, Hero's Tale, huge improvement over Enter the Dragonfly, but could use some polish here and there. Spyro Orange. I'm pretty sure I already stated how I consider Crash Purple to be the better half of this crossover, so what do I have wrong with Spyro Orange? Well, it all boils down to the mini games that I really don't like. Some of them are just too easy, some of them are just annoying, and some of them are just reskins of the same thing. I always hated that stupid mech with the magnets, the whole gravity flippin' being able to carry one single missile at a time, and those lab assistants can be pretty annoying when it comes to playing on a harder difficulty. Another thing that I have wrong about this game is that to reach the final level and boss, you have to beat all of the mini games 3 times. Yeah, unlike Crash Purple where all you had to do was just collect a gem by simply breaking all the boxes, here you have to play the mini games over and over again. Ugh, it's freaking annoying and tedious. So yeah, I don't like this side of the crossover. Spyro Shadow Legacy. Not going to talk much about this game because just like Crash Boom Bang, this is another game that I've been saving for Forgotten Media. Maybe one day I'll do both those games as a double feature. And now we reach the final days of my retrospective, The Legend of Spyro games. Ah yes, the beginning of the first Spyro reboot. Some people feel very mixed about this, but my younger self thought it was cool. thought it was better than what happened with Titans and Mutants for Crash Bandicoot. At least the nice thing about this game is that the title itself, A New Beginning, makes it clear that this is a reboot, new universe, and all that jazz. So yeah, the marketing and advertisement was pretty honest, unlike a certain blue hedgehog I know. Anyway, how's the game? Well, it's definitely much more action-packed with all the fancy moves rather than just stick with the standard charge and fire, which I was fine with. Besides, I was too young to be playing God of War or any of those kind of super action and gory games. I do like the voices of the characters. Elijah Wood as Spyro, Gary Oldman as Ignitus. Very nice. I do remember this was one of those games where I enjoyed the story more than the gameplay, but other than that, I thought it was okay. The Legend of Spyro: The Eternal Night. Funny thing about this is that The Eternal Night is one of those games I played for a bit, and then I stopped playing it, and now it's been bloody ages since I last touched it. So yeah, never got around to beating it. I've heard a lot of people say this is the worst out of the trilogy. Of course, then again, I've also heard other people say that Dawn of the Dragon is the worst. But I can't really say, because it's been too long and I haven't really beaten it. The one thing that always bothered me about Eternal Night was Billy West as Sparks. Now, don't get me wrong, I like the guy in his other works in voice acting and so on, but when you have Sparks being voiced by Daniel Spade in one game, and then sounding like Fry from Futurama in the next game, it really feels out of place for me. Not to mention the fact that they sound nothing alike, so yeah, I don't know. One of these days I might beat it, but who knows. And as for Dawn of the Dragon, never played it. Been thinking about getting it one day to finally play and complete this entire trilogy one day. And that completes my personal retrospective on Spyro the Dragon. Feels like there were less games in this series than the Crash Bandicoot games. And I'm sure you're all wondering, am I excited for the upcoming Spyro Reignited trilogy? You bet your ass I'm excited. But I'll be talking more about that in the Q&A video, so that's about it, so I'll see you next time.